And then I think from there, this
Baloney is a live show that uses theater, dance, and striptease to explore and celebrate the gay and queer sexual and life experience.
I think that with Baloney, what we're trying to say is just that everything that we present is sexy to someone.
What is the tagline? San Francisco's only all gay male revue, but nor is it completely gay, nor is it completely all male, so even the tagline is a lie.
To be any kind of artist in the Bay Area, you really have to hustle. So it's a matter of juggling lots of different types of gigs and also trying to find time for your passion projects. You're sort of right on the knife's edge, like living on survival mode. But I'd rather do it here than anywhere else.
We're definitely all about the smut and baloney, like that's what you came for. That's what we're gonna give you, but we're also gonna make you think.
Thanks very much for joining me. Congratulations on Baloney. I really enjoyed the film. Joshua, should we start with you and just how did you first hear about Baloney and why did you think it would make a good subject for a film?
Yeah, so Michael and I are collaborators. We've collaborated on many projects, starting with the Gay Husbands of San Francisco,
That's right.
which was a delightful independent project where Michael took the lead. And I was just very impressed with Michael's professionalism, dedication to the craft of acting. He really filled that role, and I wanted to know more about him. So I found out about his writing that he does, and then also the Baloney. And so when I saw Baloney, I was like, you know what, Michael's super talented, and I just want to share that talent with other people to show all the passion and dedication that goes into independent theater.
And give us a bit of a flavour, Michael, of Baloney, sort of in a nutshell. People will get to know more when they see the film, but
Yes.
give us a flavour in a nutshell, and also why you wanted to put, your story and the company's story on film.
Yeah, thank you, first of all. You're so sweet. The Baloney is, we say that it's part theater, part dance, part peep show. It's gay male burlesque that isn't entirely gay or isn't entirely male, but that seeks to show the queer experience through sexual content, through just life stuff that we all go through. We're sort of finding a way to put a queer lens on burlesque, and I guess when we started down the documentary path, I mean, we just were being ourselves. There was never really much of a decision to open up necessarily, not for myself at least, to we were just doing what we do, and Joshua was there, and it was all just sort of fly on the wall, just kind of documenting it exactly as it was. And then I think later in the process started doing more interviews with the cast and started to get more personal. And I'm always ready to go there in terms of doing an interview. I don't mind. I'm an open book, but I guess I was really surprised with how open the rest of the cast was as well, and how intimate their portraits are. And you don't sit around and talk about your process or what the work means to each other. Normally, we're just doing the work. So it was very interesting to see and hear what the work means to people and how it's fit into their larger lives. We all do many things beside Baloney, so I know them in a lot of different capacities, and it was cool to hear how Baloney fits into all of our lives in a different way and fills a niche for all of us.
Yeah, Joshua, they are very open and honest subjects, and fascinating to watch, and they open up about talking about sex work in a very non-judgmental way, in the way that you frame it in the film, and also mental health. So you could just talk a bit about the subjects of the film and how they opened up to you.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that they were ready to open up to me. I feel like this is really kind of a once-in-a-lifetime story. Like, this is the only opportunity you'll get to tell a story like Baloney. There might not be another story like that out there. And it's not like I set out to make a story about sex work and mental health, but it happened, and and I'm glad that I was there to capture those stories and how it fits in with live theater and storytelling.
And Michael, one thing that you talk about in the film is examining masculinity and sexuality in a way that's still entertaining, which is interesting. Can you maybe talk a little bit about the way Baloney sort of deconstructs some of those things?
Sure. I think in my limited experience of seeing other all-male reviews, it seems like there's really just one type. You know, when you look at some of the lineups of some of the more popular, maybe straight-based all-male reviews, there's a similar body type. There's a similar sort of masculinity, a sort of maleness that is presented. You know, there are all those archetypes of the firefighter, the cop, the cowboy, you know, all those things are in there. If you go to see something like Magic Mike, you're going to see a version of that. I think what we wanted to do was show that maleness isn't just that, and that masculinity isn't just that, and that in a male-based performance, femininity and queerness is absolutely as entertaining, as necessary, if underserved, you know, in some of those other places where you see the male body. We wanted to show that body diversity is sexy, that all different body types are welcome on our stage, and that it's the ownership of your body, the how you put yourself out there with confidence that is the really sexy thing. That, you know, it doesn't matter whether you're tall, short, you know, thin, fat. It doesn't matter as long as you're willing to put yourself out there. I think any burlesque artist will tell you that it's the peeling away is the power. You know, when we take back the power of our agency over our bodies and sexuality, and also just that maleness is not just one thing, and that it incorporates so many different things. And we want to get away from the idea that maleness and masculinity is the only way for a man to be. I think in the gay community especially, there's a lot of emphasis on that. Historically and even now, that I think we're all sort of processing our way through and finding our way to our more true selves that incorporate everything that we have. So we just meet our performers exactly where they are. We don't say, we need you to be more male or more female or more masculine or not. We just want to show them exactly as they are. And so when we see those different ways of ownership and feeling sexy in your own skin, I love that it has all different body types, all different considerations of what being male is, and we're still discovering a lot of that. You know, we still have a long way to go in terms of the diversity in our show and other stories and types that we want to present on our stage. So it's always a work in progress, but I'm proud of what we've done so far.
And something else that the film touches on, which I loved, is the way that, you know, a leather harness, that kind of hyper masculine look, as it might be described, leather look, is a form of drag in a way.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And drag is something that we come from the drag world in a way that my partner Rory and I were the backup dancers for drag queens for years and years before we started Baloney. And it was interesting to sort of remove the queen, not because we don't love that, but to have the boys step forward and to realize that all of those things are a form of drag. You know, your office outfit is your corporate drag, and your fulsome harness is your leather drag, your S&M drag. So when you think of it that way, that these are all just costumes that we layer on top of to sort of tell a story, whether it's female presenting or male presenting. You know, men do drag all the time. It's just a matter of, you know, putting that in our head of like, now this number is the number that is about that archetype or that sort of drag being peeled away to show the man, the person underneath that.
And one thing I loved about the film was the insight into the creative process, which I think a lot of documentaries miss when they're, you know, on a similar subject. And I particularly enjoyed the editing from, you know, rehearsal room and then a particular moment, and then we see it on stage in performance. So can you tell us a bit about Joshua giving us that insight?
That's where the film started. Like, when I first walked in, I was like, all right, all I know is I'm going to start with rehearsal and jump cut to performance. And if I start there, like, the rest will take care of itself. And, you know, it did.
Yeah, no, it works really well. And obviously with Michael and Rory, who choreographs a lot of the performances, giving their insight and their notes. So all together, it's, as I say, really insightful. One of my favourite numbers that we get to see is the Star Trek number, where you know, the Starship Enterprise lands on Folsom Day and encounters some leather guys. Is there a number that we get to see in the film that you think really exemplifies who Baloney is?
That's a big one because pretty soon after we started, we went into popular material. Sort of the American myths, whether they were comic books to TV shows to films, where some of them are already a little bit gay or sort of have undertones, but none of these things are really overtly gay. So inserting queer stories or highlighting the queerness of those stories is, I think, part of the fun. And we have so much more to do, and we've shown quite a lot of things and sort of made them gay. I think that's part of what we do is that showing that we can that we are sort of taking over these myths and sort of trying them on as drag as well, like as a sort of a costume, and highlighting what's already there, and or just making them more inclusive. Making them actually represent more, finding our way into them. It's all fun and games, but it actually does give you a sort of a different kind of ownership when you're playing the actual gay Batman or a gay version of the Starship Enterprise, which we all saw as queer youth, but we never saw ourselves in. So that, I think, just giving our audience the sense to see themselves in these popular materials is a very freeing experience in the way that just burlesque in general is, when you see somebody paring away the layers and showing like the soul underneath. So I think that a lot of numbers do that. I think that the one that I really love that we see little glimpses of in the movie is Love You Down, which is our number with Joe and Will. That's just a very simple, beautiful number about two men finding love on a Muni bus, all done very minimally, but it's particularly a story about two black men finding love. And that, I think in particular, showing that love story and at this moment in time felt really important, and it's just a beautiful number, and that is sort of where we want to keep going into that, to find more ways to be inclusive, more ways to have our audience see themselves on stage, whether it's through popular media or through different diversity and inclusion on our stage. So that's where we're headed, and I love that we got a little taste of that in Baloney, the film.
I love that one, yeah.
And one strong theme that runs through the film that I think people will find it inspiring when they watch it is, finding your way to be artistic and creative in a city maybe like San Francisco is now quite tech dominated, and it's changed quite a bit obviously over the last decade, hasn't it? But why was that a theme that you really wanted to show us in the film, Joshua?
Sorry, how do you mean that?
Well, it is a thing. You get all your subjects. Was it just a case of that was what a lot of the subjects were talking to you about, and you thought, well, that's an interesting thing. I'll put that in the film. Why was it something you wanted to highlight? Was it something that inspired you about what Baloney are doing?
Yeah, I mean, it is difficult to live in San Francisco doing any job, but especially as an artist, where revenue can be a little uncertain at times. That does have an impact on, your dedication to making art. And so I wanted to really highlight sort of like, what drives you so hard that you're going to go up against all this adversity and continue making art, in the face of failure, right?
And interesting too how a lot of the members of the company, this obviously isn't their number one job, so why is this something that they're interested in doing, because they already have pretty full careers and lives, and certainly none of us are doing it for the money really, so finding that people are so passionate about the material, even though they may have big careers, they're working all day long and then having to come to rehearsal and have their weekends, taken up with these gay burlesque shows. It's just the fact that people keep coming back to that. I think that it is filling an artistic niche for people, but it is also, it's the thing that is worth the sacrifice, and coming out and doing these shows.
Yeah. Even I make money from tech, because I make corporate videos a lot on the side.
And for those who maybe don't know too much about how San Francisco is nowadays, how would you describe the queer artistic community in the city?
I'd say it's vibrant. I've always thought of San Francisco as a sort of a garden where if you want to come and plant your creative seeds, it can grow there. There's an audience for it. It doesn't quite have the same industries or drives as New York or LA. It also doesn't have those populations of people all trying for the same thing. So I think it's a very interesting place to create new work, because it's not an establishment theater town or an establishment film town, but there are elements of both of those things in the town. So I think that maybe because of that, people can take more risks. People are willing to go see things that are not proven necessarily, like Baloney. I mean, we've been in the theater world there and the drag world and queer scene for a while, but this was a totally untested product at first, you know. Obviously sex sells, that helps, but it was so wonderful to see how we were embraced by the community of San Francisco and still continue to be embraced. And it's not just us, there's lots of other institutions that have started there, small companies, small groups that are using theater or film or performance or burlesque in different ways. So it feels very supportive, actually, too. It's also very challenging. I've known waves of people that have had to leave the city because of the affordability. So it's not, it's on the one hand, it's possible to make new things there. On the other hand, it's very difficult. You really have to find the way to do it. You have to hustle. And that's what we're all, I think in the movie, talk about our different hustles, like how we're making the space to make art in that city. And it's never been easy for me. I've been there for 17 years, but when you find the thing that really hits, like Baloney, you start to find the community will embrace it and want more of it and help support it. So yeah, I love it. I don't want to leave anytime soon. I love San Francisco. I love making art there. It is really cool to come to LA and bring a little taste of that here.
And could you just talk a little bit about the way that Baloney has been impacted by COVID, but your sort of innovation and the way that you've managed to get out and keep the company going and make some money from it too?
Yes, yeah, I think that all arts organizations had that moment where we were like, okay, is it about video now? Like, do we do digital? There's really, that's it, you know, and I've seen lots of different companies tackle that question in a lot of different ways. And we did a few digital shows that we put out on YouTube, and at our Oasis has their own platform that we put out. And they're great. They really expanded our skill set of, like I know how to use Premiere now. Like all of us became sort of filmmakers, mini digital filmmakers, and also, filming in isolation was a big challenge. But I think that the real thing that felt the best and that hit the community in the most positive way was when we started doing car washes. So we basically found a way to keep doing burlesque in person, but to make it safe, and basically by putting our audience in the bubble of their car and wrapping the burlesque around them, right, in a safe way. When we first did our first car wash, we were completely masked, completely distanced. It was still a scary time. I was very nervous about even doing that. It's all outdoor, obviously, but when people drove up into the car wash line and saw the activity and saw somebody coming up to them with a mask and talking to them, they were beaming. They were so excited to just be out of their house, to be seeing live performance in any way, even if it's through the glass. And we have so much fun. I mean, it's basically we're suds and junk all over your windows. We wash the cars. It's good hard work, but it really fulfilled the need for both ourselves to perform and the audience to see something, anything, and it became this total hit. We did multiple ones. We brought it to Palm Springs, and that was the way that we sort of found a way to do a version of the show that didn't require the risk of the show.
And what does it mean to each of you to be bringing the film here to Outfest? And there's going to be a live performance tonight too, so it's quite a special night.
Hold the plane.
That's a loud one. Yeah, I mean, it felt really good. Last night we had our first actual Baloney rehearsal in over a year and a half, with people in the same room, working on numbers. I think for all of us, we were all just like, thank goodness, like we got here. We're so happy to be back. We could be doing anything and we'd be really happy. I think that in particular, we're really proud to be doing it as a part of this movie and to opening ourselves up to a new audience and a new way of having our story be told. And we're excited to bring a little bit of what we really do into the theater and show that live in person. So it means the world to us just to be back together. Some members of the troupe have moved away over the years, so now this is a great homecoming. We've got to work with people that we haven't worked with in a couple of years, that aren't in San Francisco anymore, that are here in LA that we can work with. So it just feels really, really nice. We're very excited about the show tonight.
That was fun last night. I don't think
was.
anybody wanted to go home.
I know. We were just like, we were eating pizza,
Let's do
doing
it all
numbers,
night.
running the show. It looks great. We were just like, let's do more. Yeah, it was fun.
We see you in the film, Michael, going around San Francisco putting up some quite racy flyers. And you also touch on an interesting point as well, in that marketing can be quite a challenge for anything with nudity, and then you add the queer element. I don't know if that's something you maybe want to talk about.
Yeah, it's a challenge. It's a challenge to do any sort of marketing, but especially in the digital space, at least in my experience. Maybe there's other racy content that has found a way around this, but we were blacklisted, shadow banned by all the social media long ago. We would put out very generic, easy, we just took all of the raciness out of it, but it's still, we were never able to do a sponsored post. We were never able to take some of the advantages of social media marketing that other more traditional theaters may be able to. So in a way, it really made us focus more on underground marketing, and the physical marketing of posters is sometimes the only way that we're able to get the word out in the gay neighborhood of Castro, some of the Soma, like places where maybe our audience is walking around. But it's challenging enough to market any show in today's climate, and to sort of rise above the the herd and the people's attention spans. And it's not an easy job anyway, but I think especially with content that walks the line of sexual, it's particularly challenging. And then of course I see ads for product you can buy, like gay men's underwear. I don't know how they target me for those ads, but and then I'm just like, I see visible penis line on this thing, but I guess because they're selling merchandise, it's different than selling a show. I mean, yeah, it's just arts organizations have such an uphill battle, and especially if then you're sort of delegitimized and saying like, oh, this is like sex work, or this is too sexual, or this is porn. Even though I think people that are making those decisions, if they are people at all and not bots, are not really seeing the show for what it actually is, and the fact that it's a community building experience. Just because it's queer doesn't mean that it doesn't deserve those same opportunities to put itself out there and advertise.
Yeah, the film had the same problems.
Yeah, I bet.
It was difficult. Yeah, I did promo posts for a while, but very quickly people were like, "Why is this on my wall? Get this off my wall."
Yeah, I think it probably just takes one person to complain.
Absolutely.
And as you say, a lot of it is probably robots that detect things. And it's kind of an ever-changing landscape, isn't it? There was some news recently about OnlyFans.
I just saw
no
that.
sexual
Yeah.
content.
I can't believe that. That is such a huge revenue builder for so many people. And what are people doing? I mean, the thing is, sex work is real work. It's not going anywhere. We're not sex work, but so many of our people that are involved with the show in the crowd and on the stage have that in their lives. And so it just seems very short-sighted. We're always sort of still puritanical in a lot of ways, our society is, and I think that it's sort of our job as Baloney to work against that. We are not that entertainment. We're not safe in that way, I guess. So it's sort of, it makes us a target for people that are against that, against queer anything. Obviously we're a no for very many people, but we're a resounding yes for the people that really, really need it. So just getting the word out in whatever way we can, and I think word of mouth has been the biggest driver for our crowds, because once people see the show, they usually will come back. They'll usually bring back friends. Just the sort of, you have to see it to believe it experience.
Well, this film will let, first of all, LA know, and then the world. So,
Yes.
So final question for each of you, and it's for your favorite piece of LGBTQ plus culture, or a person who identifies as LGBTQ plus, just someone or something that's had an impact on you and resonated with you over the years.
I'll go first because I love that also as part of Outfest, Charles Busch is here with a new film. I think that there's such a wealth of queer creators, writer, director, performers that I personally find to be my biggest role models. Somebody like Charles Busch, still working, still being able to tell his stories. John Cameron Mitchell. There's so many folks. John Waters, that are so influential because they did it their way, and they did it for a queer audience, but also a much wider audience of just anybody that wants that content. And I'm so we feel like we're in great company have our movie next to these wonderful creators. Yeah, I just if they can do it, we can do it, you know. So that's always given me strength to be like, even in the hardest moments, they're still working, you know. There's an audience for this if you can get through it and get your stories out there.
My favorite film, Paris of Burning, that really influenced me a lot, just because it's such an immersive film about this world that's completely unfamiliar to me, and it has a different language and this different visual aesthetic, and I was really drawn in by that film. And I kind of wanted to do the same with Baloney, sort of like bringing people that wouldn't otherwise be exposed to queer male burlesque and introducing to this whole new world with its own secret language and aesthetic styles. Yeah, it's a pleasure for me to bring that to a whole new audience.
Joshua, Michael, thanks very much. Congratulations on the film, and enjoy tonight.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
See you in the theater.
I know you got this. Oh, wait, bring it in.
Ready or not, here I come. Ready or not, we gonna make you jump.
How is my T-zone? Because we really need this face to look young.
We gonna make